Hey, the truth is, I'm lazy.
When I was a junior in high school, I had multiple teachers who didn't show up to my 504 meeting, which was a fairly common occurrence. But I started having frequent and seemingly unexplainable panic attacks, which I'd later figure out were likely meltdowns, and would later start to happen in the classroom. Many of my teachers very quickly found out why exactly I needed one, including one teacher who I started to melt down in his classroom. Guess who was right there at a subsequent emergency 504 meeting? I understand that teachers don't get a say in the reasonable accommodations they have to follow. But that doesn't give you the right to decide who does and doesn't need help, because you could make a bad judgment call and seriously traumatize the wrong student. I've healed from a lot of this, which is why I do not release names. But I will do as much as I can to make sure history doesn't repeat with my future children. I don't suspect that I'm going to be perfect at it, but I will do my best.
I have a hot take that I didn't realise was a hot take until I stumbled down a Facebook rabbit hole.
I want to start this off first by saying, yes, you have some really good points in here. But the way you're talking about this is really, really reductive. While yes, you are correct that not every kid with autism is going to have ARFID, it is extremely common. There is a massive difference between picky eating and ARFID, because an aversion is definitely way more extreme. When I was little, my aversions mostly had to do with texture. If the texture was wrong, or even if I thought it was going to be wrong, I would gag. That, and I typically would have a meltdown sometimes too if my parents tried to force me to sit at the table. And I wasn't exactly having a meltdown just to slight my parents, it's because I was scared. I didn't like the sensation of gagging. And this is not to say that I am pro just giving your child sweets if they don't eat what's in front of them. And for argument's sake, if every parent that suspected their child had ARFID were giving them sweets, yeah, that's setting an incredibly bad precedent that is going to be impossible to break. But if you imagine having a kid with ARFID, or at least severe enough ARFID that they have a reaction every single time they try to eat something, you get to a point where it's just like, I don't know what to do. And every time they take to something that they're eating is a massive victory. Because there are some kids that will sooner end up in the hospital for malnutrition than eat a food that they are scared of. Okay, so I am wanting to start a new video series of just kind of like trying foods that either A, I haven't tried in a long time, or B, are my fear foods, because I have ARFID and I'm actually about to go start food therapy basically, and the one that I am trying right now is kiwi. So here we go. This was one I couldn't remember if I liked. Actually, yeah, I do like it.
Okay, so I'm the worst mom ever. My son has mostly the restrictive type of ARFID.
Losing a safe food with ARFID is something that is not talked about nearly enough. It is honestly one of the most frustrating experiences, not just for our caregivers, but for us too. If you have never experienced what losing a safe food feels like, it's almost like an aversion happens, except nothing necessarily happened to cause it, just your body basically got sick of it. One of the biggest things that I would tell anyone that is dealing with this is make sure you have any kind of snacky food around. Obviously, don't go for something that's like super unhealthy if you can avoid it. But the point is, if all they can do is snack, that is better than not eating at all. Alright, so now we are trying raspberries. This is one like I have hopes for it. I just had never tried it before today. Definitely definitely a little sour.
They're a bit out of season.
Right.
Raspberries are more a summer fruit.
That makes sense. Okay.
So they might be a little tart.
Okay.
And we can try them again next summer when they're in season.
For sure.
To see if you like them when they're a little sweeter.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if. That one was definitely a little bit sweeter.
I tried to pick the darker colored ones because the darker colored ones tend to be a little sweeter. But
Makes sense. Let's see if this. Maybe I just picked the unlucky fruit first.
maybe. Alright, on a scale of 1 to 10.
Ooh. Let's see. I would say maybe like a 6.
Okay. Cool.
Look at this comment. Look at it. Stare at it. Look at this comment. Oh my gosh. There are people who get it. Yes, there are bad autism moms out there, but the thing is that we made the situation worse because we made ourselves out to be the most important voices in the community, and we are not. I used to be you. I would go in with the mob, I would jump on the autism moms, like all of that, until I realized who it was actually hurting. Because what Trina was saying about the script is actually really, really, unfortunately, very true. We repeat the same script over and over again, thinking that maybe if I just repeat it one more time, maybe now they will change their mind. But once I realized that it was more than just me who needs to have a voice in this community, I sat down and I shut up. On today's Adventures in Food Therapy, I felt a little bit too weird to film at the physical, or not the physical therapy, the speech therapy place. But I tried Stun Butter for the first time, and actually, it's better than I expected. It's like very mild in flavor, but it's not bad.
There is no such thing as girl autism. There is no such thing as boy autism. There is no such thing as the girl.
Okay. While technically the criteria is the same across the board, men and women, or those assigned male and those assigned female, are affected differently. I kid you not when I say I gaslit myself for years over this kind of misinformation.
So, if that commercial wouldn't have happened and they wouldn't have had to...
Your daily reminder that our rights did not just appear out of thin air.
Okay, so this is going to be my respectful opposing viewpoint.
Dear fellow low support needs or level 1 autistics, they are responsible for your rights in Washington. You can deny that all you want. You can wish it away all you want. That is the fact of the situation. I said this in a comment, but needing help with academics is not coddling. Wanting to be taught in a way that works for our brains isn't coddling. Oh, but what happens if you get out in the real world? That's what the ADA is for. Disabled people have rights in the workplace. Shocker. A disabled person's disability doesn't go away when they turn 18. Another shocker. I wanted to highlight this real quick and definitely talk about what I was looking for as a former 504 kid. I was never, ever, ever looking for somebody to give me the answers. No, I enjoyed learning too much for that. What I needed was help explaining how to get to the right answer and then making sure I did it right. So I already made a comment in the thread on this one, but I actually kind of wanted to address this in a video. So fun fact, if you did not know, those of us girlies who were diagnosed with ADHD, like when we were children, would have likely been diagnosed, and if we're talking in the States, because Kiki is in Canada, we would have been diagnosed under the DSM-4. And the DSM-4, basically it wasn't possible to have what would have been Asperger's at the time and ADHD at the same time. And so if your ADHD traits were stronger, they probably prioritized the ADHD. If your Asperger's traits were stronger, then they probably prioritized the Asperger's diagnosis.